escape. It's all about escapism. That's what it's about. It's all about escaping. If our lives are so happy, why do we want to escape our life all the time? I remember back in the 80s there was this phenomenon called raves. The raves. Okay? They would send these text messages and phone up or whatever, and they would say, okay, there's a rave in this farm in such and such place, whatever. People would come from all over the place, and they'd set up a street, and they'd just, put on the music, and they'd dance and dance and dance. There's a lot of this ecstasy going around. Raves. It was a phenomenon. And I remember watching a film crew who had gone to film one of these raves. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. Now, back in the days, right, when it was John Travolta and discos, that's my days back then, right? Okay, we used to sort of go to the disco and sort of come out about 4 in the morning. This was 7 in the morning. The music was still playing, and the people were still dancing. The people were still at 7 o'clock in the morning. And there is this guy drenched in sweat. His t-shirt is wet from sweat. And they're asking, they say to him, why do you come here? He said, I have this boring life. I have this miserable job. I come here and I dance and I dance and I dance until I forget myself. I forget myself. Look at the words we use for people who are inebriated. And you've probably experienced it here. You've probably experienced it here. If you're at university, sharing flats with people who are not Muslim, maybe even with some Muslims. Come home 3 o'clock in the morning, completely drunk, puke up, fall asleep in a pool of their own sick, wake up the next day, whoa, I had such a good time last night. Yeah, really? What did you do? I don't remember. I don't remember. In fact, the less you remember, the more of a good time you had. I was stoned, wasted, on cloud 9, out of it, smashed. Look at the words. They describe states of self-annihilation. Self-annihilation. That's what it describes. Inanimate, unthinking, unfeeling, unknowing. This is what it describes. And this, by the way, just as a side point, is a national health disaster in the waiting. It's especially a problem for women. Women are binge drinking, they have less tolerance for alcohol. It's damaging their livers. You have more and more women who are earning more and more money. They're still living at home, so they have huge amounts of disposable income, and they are binge drinking. The police don't have time to catch criminals because they're spending most of their time waiting for these people to come out of the clubs where they come so drunk, they fall down, they are sick. If the police are not there, they will drown in their own vomits. This is what our taxpayers' money is going on. Is this happiness? Are these people happy? Has wealth really made them happy? No. It hasn't. If they were happy, they wouldn't need to do these things. It's a sign of their misery. And I remember they interviewed these girls, and the same thing, they said, our life is so boring. Our life is so empty. Our life is so empty. The only relief we get from our boring, empty life is when we indulge in the weekend in unabated hedonism. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Booze and sex. Non-stop from Friday night till Sunday afternoon. And that gives us a bit of relief from our boring... These are not people like in Gaza who don't have water to wash their children. Can you imagine? I don't know if any of you got kids. I've got a bunch of kids. I mean, just changing their nappies is when they're little. That itself Just changing the kids' nappies for us. Oh my God, there's another poo. What a stink, what a this and that. Right, wash it, this and that. Imagine you don't have water. Imagine your children nappy rash. Imagine them crying. There's no fresh water to drink. No electricity. No fridge. You go to a hospital. There's no equipment there. There's no lights there. That's suffering. That's people who've got nothing. Yet here we are in the West with everything that we could possibly imagine and things we don't even want. Yet we're still not happy. Yet, George Bush wants us all to live the American dream. He wants to spread this madness throughout the whole planet. Well, there's another problem there. We don't have enough resources on our planet for everyone to live the American dream. If every human being lived like the average American, we would need 7 planets in order to provide for all of that. We don't have enough resources on this planet. 17% of the world's population consumes 70% of its resources. 17% consumes 70% of its resources. Who is that 70%? Who consumes that 70%? What is it, Bangladesh? Is it Indonesia? Who is it? It's the West. It's the West. Because you see, the thing is, the truth is, that wealth does not equal happiness. And you can have as many material possessions as you like, and you never ever will be satisfied. The more you have, the more you want. Consume, consume, consume. The fact is, miserable people consume. Think about this. It's people with empty lives, with miserable lives. They are the people who consume. They are the people who spend that money to go and watch the movies. They're the ones who spend God knows how much money on records. They're the ones who take drugs. They're the ones who drink alcohol. They're the ones who think they have to dress like this, look like this, do this. The people with empty lives. Miserable people consume. In fact, believe me, these multinational corporations know it perfectly well. They know it. They know the more miserable you are, the more things you'll buy. And so it's in their vested interest to make you miserable. Because the more miserable you are, the more empty your lives are, the more you're going to buy their products. The more you're going to consume. The more you're going to fill their life with their little trinkets. So actually, the consumer society breeds misery and unhappiness, because from that misery and unhappiness, that's where people consume. Now I say it's a disaster on different levels. It's a disaster on an individual personal level. Individual human beings are suffering. Societies are suffering. Look at our societies. Look what's happening. Look at it. I look at my own kids. I look at my own kids. Obsessed. Totally obsessed with material things. I didn't bring them up that way. I don't need to. I'm not bringing them up. In this society, even whatever you do, unless you lock them away in a house, you know, and even then I think they'd pick up stuff, you know. So it's in the air. It's in the air. Consume, consume. Buy this, buy that. Have this, have that. Empty lives. So on an individual level, it's a disaster. And this is why these kids, why would someone be ready to kill someone, take the life of a human being for a pair of trainers? A pair of trainers. You've got those expensive Nike trainers. This is what happens. People will stab, shoot, and kill each other here in England, in the United States of America, for a pair of trainers.